Fix your English habits. Introduction. Do you ever feel a little bit annoyed when you say something in English and you know it's not quite right, but you can't figure out what's wrong? Or maybe you do know, but you keep making the same mistake over and over, no matter how hard you try. It feels like a puzzle you can't solve, right? You're not the only one. Many people who use English every day, for work, school, or just talking with friends run into these small problems. They might speak well, but certain words, phrases, or grammar rules seem to trip them up, making them feel less sure of themselves. The funny thing is, these are usually not big, lasting problems. Most of the time, they are just mistakes that have become so common, so automatic, that they're like habits. Think about it. Like always using the same coffee cup or singing a song without thinking. These English mistakes can happen without us even noticing. They become a comfortable, familiar way we speak or write. What we are talking about in this book are your English habits. These are the fixed ways you use English. They are the automatic ways you put words together, choose words, and even make sounds. These habits are formed over time. Maybe you learned a mistake when you first started learning English and no one told you it was wrong, so your brain thought it was the right way. Or maybe you heard or read something that wasn't quite right. Whatever the reason, when you do something the same way many times, it becomes automatic. It's like taking the same road to work every day. It's easy and you don't have to think. But when these automatic ways are mistakes, they can block you from speaking and writing as clearly as you want. They can make you pause, doubt yourself, and feel less sure about what you can do. But here's the really good news, because these are habits, you can change them. This is the main idea behind Fix Your English Habits. This book is a helpful guide to understand those English mistakes that seem hard to fix. We will bring them into the light. First, we will help you notice your specific English habits, the ones that are stopping you. It's like looking in a mirror and finally seeing something you didn't notice before. Once you can see them clearly, we will work together on a simple plan to stop those old, unhelpful habits. We will do this by trying hard and practicing a lot, gently helping your brain learn new, correct ways. It's about replacing those old, automatic mistakes with new, automatic correct ways of using English. By understanding and changing your English habits, you will start to see a real difference. You will feel more confident when you speak, your writing will be clearer, and you will make fewer of those annoying mistakes. This journey will be practical, step by step, and always encouraging. We will look at common habits that many English speakers have and then find easy, good ways to fix them, one by one. You can get better, and this book will show you how. Are you ready to start building better English habits and use your full speaking and writing power? Let's start. 1. Understanding common mistakes. Sometimes, when you try to speak or write in English, it doesn't sound quite right. You might use the wrong word, put words in the wrong order, or say something that sounds a bit strange. It's easy to feel sad when this happens, or even a little shy. You might think, why can't I say this correctly? But here's an important thing to know. These common English mistakes are not usually a sign that you are not smart or that you will never learn. Instead, they are usually what we call English habits. Think about learning to ride a bike. When you first started, you had to think hard about every little thing. How to balance, how to pedal, how to steer. You had to pay close attention. But now, if you've been riding for a while, you probably don't think about it much. You get on the bike, you pedal, you steer, and you go. Your body and mind know what to do without you telling them. This is a habit. English habits work in a very similar way. When you first began learning English, you were taught the rules. You learned that we say I am happy, not I is happy. You learned that we say she went to the store, not she go to the store. You learned these rules and tried your best to follow them. But maybe, over time, you heard someone else say something a little different, or you had to speak fast, and you ended up saying I is happy or she go to the store. If you said it one time, it might have been a small mistake, but if you kept saying it, or if you heard others say it and it sounded okay, your brain started to think it was the normal way. Your brain is like a very good computer. It likes to make things easy. When you do something many times, whether it's right or wrong, your brain makes a path for it. The more you do it, the stronger that path becomes. Soon that path is so strong and automatic that it feels natural. It becomes a habit. This is why, even when you know the right rule, you might still make the same mistake again and again. The old, wrong habit is so strong that it comes out before your thinking mind can stop it and use the rule you learned. It's like trying to take a road you know well, but your hand turns the wheel the old way, even though you know the new road is better. So, what makes an English mistake a habit instead of just a one-time slip? It's doing it many times and doing it without thinking. A one-time mistake might happen because you were tired, not paying attention, or just learning a new word. You might notice it right away, or someone might tell you and you think, oh, right. And you don't make that mistake again. But a habit is different. A habit is something you do automatically because you've done it many times. It's something you do without really thinking. You might even say it right sometimes, but then other times, the old habit takes over and you make a mistake. That feeling of I know better, but I still said it wrong, tells you it's a habit. This is also why it's hard for learners to find their own mistakes. Our brains are very good at not noticing things that are familiar, even if they are wrong. Imagine a small, constant noise in your house. At first, you hear it all the time. But after a few weeks, you stop hearing it. It becomes part of the background. Your brain learns to ignore it. It's the same with our English habits. When a wrong pattern becomes a habit, our brain gets used to it. It doesn't sound like a mistake to our own ears anymore. It's just how we speak or write. This creates a kind of blind spot. We are so used to our own wrong patterns that we don't see them. This blind spot is a big problem when learning. If you can't see your mistake, how can you fix it? You might practice grammar rules all day, but if you don't notice that you're automatically using the wrong time in your speech, that practice might not help as much. You're practicing the wrong thing without even knowing it. This is why the first and most important step in fixing your English habits is learning to see them. Think about the common kinds of mistakes people make. They often fall into a few main groups, and these groups are where habits easily grow. First, there are grammar habits. This is a very big area. We might have a habit of always forgetting to add s to verbs when we talk about he, she, or it. So, instead of he walks to the park, we might say he walked to the park. Or maybe we have trouble with past times. We know that go becomes went, but when we're speaking fast, I go yesterday might come out. Another common grammar habit is with small words like a, an, and the. Sometimes, we forget them, or we use them when they are not needed, or we use the wrong one. These are not random mistakes. They are patterns of using English wrong that have become automatic. Then we have pronunciation habits. This is about how we say words. English has some sounds that are hard for many learners. Maybe you have a habit of saying th like f or s. So think sounds like think or sink. Or perhaps you have a habit of putting the loud part of a word on the wrong syllable. For example, in the word photograph, the loud part is on the first part, photograph. But some learners might have a habit of putting the loud part on the second part, photograph. These sound habits can make it hard for people who speak English as their first language to understand you, even if your grammar is perfect. Vocabulary habits are also very common. This is not just about not knowing a word. It's about using the wrong word even when you know several. For example, you might always use the word make when you should use do. We make a cake, but we do homework. If you always say do a cake, that's a vocabulary habit. Or maybe you use certain phrases too much, like saying very good all the time instead of finding better words like excellent, fantastic, or great. Using the same words over and over can make your English sound a bit boring or even wrong. Finally, there are sentence structure habits. This is about how we put our sentences together. Some people might have a habit of writing or speaking in very long sentences that are hard to understand. These are sometimes called run-on sentences. Others might have a habit of using very short sentences that don't connect well. Or perhaps you have a habit of starting every sentence the same way, like I think or I want to say this can make your writing or speaking sound the same all the time. The way to break free from these common mistakes is to understand that they are habits. This understanding is not about blaming yourself. It's about giving yourself power. If it's a habit, it can be changed. Habits are things we learn, and things we learn can be unlearned and replaced with new, better things. You don't have to keep making these errors forever. The first step, and it's a big one, is to learn to see your specific mistakes that you make again and again. This is where you become like a detective of your own English. You need to start noticing, when do I make this mistake? What kind of mistake is it? Does it happen when I'm talking about the past? Does it happen when I'm trying to use a certain word? This requires a change in how you think. Instead of being upset by mistakes, try to look at them with interest. See them as clues. Each mistake is a sign showing an English habit that needs your attention. It's not a failure, it's a chance to learn and grow. We are not trying to be perfect right away. We are trying to become more aware. We are trying to build a new habit of paying attention to our language. This process of seeing your habits might feel strange at first. You've been speaking and writing English for a long time, and your brain has been working hard to make it all flow smoothly. Now, you're asking it to slow down and to be more critical of itself. It's like teaching an old dog new tricks, but remember, dogs can learn new tricks, and so can you. It just takes patience and steady effort. Once we understand that our common English mistakes are often habits that are deeply set, the next important step is to develop a sharp eye for spotting these specific patterns in our own speaking and writing. Being able to accurately see what needs to be fixed is the foundation for all good practice. 2. Improving your English skills. Sometimes you feel like you are stuck. You have learned English for a while and you understand many things. But when you try to speak or write, the same small mistakes keep happening. It is like a path you always walk on, even when you want to go another way. These are your English speaking habits. They are the ways you have learned to do things, some good, some not so good. The good thing about habits is that you can change them. Just like you learn to do them, you can learn to do them in a different way. This is how we fix your English, by working hard to make your skills better. The first and maybe most important step is knowing what you are doing. You cannot fix a habit if you do not know it is there. Think of it like a small stone in your shoe. You might not feel it at first, but it makes every step hurt. When you know the stone is there, you can take off your shoe and remove it. In the same way, seeing your English habits, especially the ones that cause mistakes, is the first step. This means really listening to yourself when you speak. Do you often use the wrong words? Do you say the same kind of sentences again and again? Are some sounds always a little bit wrong? Asking others for help is also very useful. Do not be afraid to ask a friend, a teacher, or someone you practice English with to tell you your common mistakes. Sometimes, other people hear things that we do not hear ourselves. Be brave and ready to hear this help. It is not about being judged, it is about getting the information you need to change. Looking closely at your own speaking and writing is the start. It is saying, okay, I see this happening. I see this mistake again and again. Knowing this is not a sign that you were failing. It is a sign that you are growing. It is the moment you decide to take charge. Once you know what to look for, the next important part is practicing the right things. Just speaking more English or reading more books will help, but it might not fix those specific, hard habits. Think about learning to play music. If you want to get better at a hard part of a song, you do not just play the whole song many times hoping it will get better. You slow down that part and you practice it again and again, focusing only on that part until it feels natural and right. This is how you should work on your English habits. If you often use the wrong small words like in, on, and at, do not just hope to get them right later. Find exercises that focus only on these small words. Write sentences using them. Make cards with words. Say sentences out loud using them. If you have trouble with past tense words, spend time practicing those specific words. The goal is to put a bright light on your weak spots. This careful practice, aimed at your habits, is much stronger than just general practice. It is about working in a smarter way, not just more. This leads us to making new habits by doing them many times. Remember how those mistakes became habits? It was by doing them many times. Every time you said it the wrong way, that path in your brain got stronger. The good news is, you can do the same thing with the right way. Every time you choose to use the right grammar, the right word, or the right sound, you are making a new path. You are making the right way stronger. It might feel strange at first. It might feel like you are thinking too much about every word. That is normal. When you learn to ride a bike, you think a lot about balancing, pedaling, and turning. You might wobble, but the more you practice, the more those actions become natural. Your brain learns to balance without you thinking about it. The same is true for your English. The more you practice the right ways, the more they will become natural. You are replacing old paths with new, strong, and correct ones. This is how you change your English habits. It is also important to understand how to be active. Learning by just listening or reading is important. It is like watching someone cook. You can learn a lot by watching, but to learn to cook, you need to be in the kitchen yourself. You need to cut, stir, and taste. To make your English better, you need to use it actively. This means speaking as much as you can, even if you make mistakes. Write emails, messages, or a diary. Try to explain your thoughts in English. When you learn a new word or a new grammar rule, do not just read about it. Try to use it in a sentence right away. The act of making your own sentences, of putting your own thoughts into English, makes you understand better and helps build new habits. Being active turns knowing into doing. It is the difference between knowing about something and being able to do it. Finally, and this is maybe the most important lesson, being patient and not giving up are good qualities. Changing habits is not usually fast or easy. It takes time. There will be days when you feel like you are not getting better. You might go back to old ways. This is not a reason to stop. It is a sign that you are human and that learning takes effort. Think about building strong muscles. You do not get strong from one workout. You get strong from doing it often for weeks and months. Your English skills are the same. Every time you practice, every time you fix yourself, every talk you have, is like a workout for your language brain. Some days the workout feels easy, and some days it feels hard. But doing it often is what makes you strong and better over time. Do not get sad about mistakes. See them as chances to learn and try again with new focus. People who succeed are the ones who keep going, who know that every small step forward adds up. Let's think about Sarah. Sarah loved to read and watch movies in English. She understood much, but when she tried to speak, she often said, "I am go to the store." She knew it was wrong, She had heard the right I am going or I go many times. But the I am go habit was very strong. It felt natural to her. For weeks, she tried to remember to say going. She would practice in her head, I am going. But when she spoke to someone, the old habit would come out. She began to feel upset. One day, her teacher told her to try something different. Instead of just trying to remember the rule, Sarah decided to focus on the sound of the right way. She spent 5 minutes each morning just saying sentences starting with I am and making sure she said the sound. I am studying. I am working. I am eating. She did not worry about the rest of the sentence, just that I am part. She also started writing sentences where she would normally make that mistake, and then writing them again the right way. She did not write many sentences, just a few each day. After about 3 weeks of this very focused practice, something changed. One afternoon, she was talking to a friend and needed to say she was going to the library. Without even thinking, she said, I am going to the library. She stopped, surprised. She had done it. It was not just luck. It was the result of that careful, focused effort. The new habit, the right way to say that phrase, had started to become stronger than the old one. It took patience, and there were still times she would say the old way, but she did not get angry. She would just gently fix herself and keep practicing. Sarah learned that making her English better was not about being perfect right away, but about working often to build better habits, one focused practice at a time. So how can you find your own English mistakes that have become habits? It is more than just feeling like you make mistakes. It is about becoming a detective of your own language. Start by keeping a small book or a note on your phone. When you catch yourself saying something that sounds wrong, or when someone gently tells you, write it down. Do not worry about how you write your notes. Just write down the phrase or sentence. For example, you might write, I say make a photo instead of take a photo. Or, I forget S on words in present tense. He liked coffee. After a week or two, look at your notes. Do you see patterns? Are certain kinds of mistakes happening more than others? This is your personal map to getting better. You will likely see common areas like mistakes with small words, forgetting in, on, at, or using them wrong, problems with word tenses, mixing up past, present, and future tenses, or having trouble with perfect tenses. Words not matching, forgetting this on words for he, she, it like he like instead of he likes. Articles, using a, an, or the wrong, or not using them. Choosing the wrong word. Using a word that is close in meaning, but not quite right, or mixing up words that are alike. Sounds, certain sounds that are hard for people who speak your first language. Once you have this list, you can start to fix them one by one. Trying to fix everything at once can be too much. Pick 1 or 2 of the most common mistakes and focus on those first. This focused way makes the job feel possible and lets you see progress more clearly. Now, what are the most common types of English habits that stop you from getting better, and how do they show up when you talk every day? These often come from your first language, where certain ways of putting words together or certain sounds are common. For example, if your first language does not use articles a, and the as much as English, you might forget to use them. So instead of saying, I saw a dog, you might say, I saw dog. Or, if your language puts words in a different order, you might find yourself putting English words in a way that sounds strange to people who speak English. Another common habit is trying to say exactly what you would say in your own language. You might have a perfect sentence in your head in your own language, and then you try to say each word one by one in English. This often leads to sentences that are not correct or sound very strange. For example, a direct translation might give you something like, I have hunger instead of the correct I am hungry. These habits show up in daily talking by making your English sound less natural and sometimes hard to understand. They can cause people to misunderstand you and make you feel less sure when you speak. But remember, these are just habits. They are learned ways of doing things, and like all learned ways, they can be unlearned and replaced. Finally, let's talk about clear, helpful ways to practice specific English skills to fix these habits, going beyond general advice. If your habit is using small words like in, on, and at wrong, make sentence shapes. Write sentences with empty spaces for the small words. For example, I live the city. My birthday is July. The book is the table. Then put in the right small words and say them out loud. Use pictures. Look at pictures and say what you see using small words. The cat is the mat. The bird is the tree. If your habit is forgetting this on words like he, like, practice lists. Make lists of people I, you, he, she, it, we, they, and words. Practice saying the right form for each. I like, you like. 3. Spotting habitual errors. When we try to learn new things, like speaking or writing English better, we sometimes make mistakes. This is completely normal. Think about learning to ride a bike. You likely fell a few times. But each time you got back up, you learned a bit more. You began to understand how to balance, how to steer, and how to pedal. English can be similar. We try to use new words, new rules for grammar, and new ways to say things. And sometimes we get them wrong. That is okay. But what happens when we keep making the same mistake again and again? That is when a simple mistake starts to feel like a habit. Imagine you are learning to bake a cake. The recipe says to add 1 small spoon of sugar. But maybe, for some reason, you always add 2 small spoons by mistake. At first, it is just a mistake. You might notice the cake is a little too sweet. But if you keep doing it, without really thinking about it, adding 2 small spoons of sugar becomes your habit. You just do it without thinking. It feels normal to you, even if it is not quite right. English is the same. When you are learning, you might hear a word or a sentence and you try to use it. If you use it the wrong way, and you do it many times, your brain starts to remember that wrong way. It becomes your automatic way of speaking or writing. This is what we call English language habits. These are the ways of speaking or writing that you have learned without even knowing it. Some habits are good, like always saying please and thank you. But some habits can be mistakes. My own learning of English was not always easy. I remember when I was learning to speak a new language myself, many years ago, there was a small word, a little word that connects other words that I just could not get right. I would use it in the wrong place or forget it. I heard other people use it correctly, but when I tried, it always felt a little not right. For months, I made the same mistake. It was not just a small slip, it was a pattern. It was an English language habit. It felt natural to me to say it the wrong way, even though I knew it was wrong. It was like a small knot in my tongue that I could not untie. This is the first big idea in fixing your English. Understanding that your mistakes might be habits. When you make a mistake, it is easy to think, oh, I made a mistake, and that is true. But if you keep making the same mistake in the same way, it is more than just a mistake. It is a habit you have built. Think about it. Have you ever said something and then right away thought, wait, that did not sound right? Or maybe you have written an email and later, when you read it, you found a sentence that felt a little strange? That feeling of something is not quite right is your brain telling you that a habit might be showing itself. The tricky thing about habits, especially language habits, is that they can become invisible to us. We get so used to them that they feel completely normal. It is like wearing glasses that are a little bit dirty. You might see things a little blurry, but you do not always notice the dirt itself because you are so used to looking through it. You just accept the slightly blurry view. Your own habitual mistakes can be like that dirt. You might not even see them anymore. This is what we call the blind spot effect. We are often blind to our own mistakes that happen again and again. When we speak or write, our brain automatically picks the path it knows best, the habit. And since that habit feels natural, we do not question it. We do not see it as an error. We just see it as how we speak or how we write. So, how do we start to see this dirt? How do we spot these hidden habits? The answer is simple, but it takes effort. Awareness. The very first, most important step to changing any habit is to become aware of it. If you do not know you are doing something, you cannot stop doing it. If you do not spot the mistake, you cannot fix it. This might sound obvious, but it is very powerful. Most people who make the same English mistakes again and again are not doing it because they do not want to be correct. They are doing it because they have not truly noticed their own pattern of error. They might notice the result of the error like someone looking confused, but they have not found the habit itself. Let us look at some common places where these habits like to hide. One big area is grammar. Have you ever noticed yourself using the wrong verb tense? For example, always using the present tense when you should use the past tense, or the other way around. Or maybe you have trouble with prepositions. Those small words like in, on, at, to, from. These are very common places for habits to form. You might have learned one preposition and then just used it for everything, even when another one is needed. For instance, saying I am good in English instead of I am good at English. The second one is the correct habit, but the first one might have become your automatic, habitual way of saying it. Another area is vocabulary. This can be about using the wrong word completely. Maybe you know a word that sounds like the one you need, but it means something different. For example, using effect when you mean effect, or there when you mean there. Or it could be about awkward ways of putting words together. You might put words together in a way that sounds a little strange to someone who speaks English as their first language, even if the meaning is clear. This is often because you are building sentences based on the patterns of your own first language rather than natural English patterns. Then there is pronunciation. This is a very clear example of a habit. If you consistently say a certain sound the wrong way, like the th sound in think or this, it is a habit. Your mouth is used to making that sound in a specific, wrong way. It might feel difficult or even impossible to change at first because your tongue and lips have been trained to do it the wrong way for so long. And finally, sentence structure. Sometimes, we build our sentences in a way that is grammatically okay, but it is not clear or easy to understand. Maybe the sentence is too long and confusing, or the order of the words makes it hard to follow. This can also become a habit if you have always structured your thoughts this way when speaking or writing English. It is important to understand the difference between a simple mistake and a habit. A slip is like a one-time error. You are tired, you are distracted, or you are trying to say something very fast, and you just say the wrong word or use the wrong grammar. It is a moment of error that passes quickly. You might even catch it yourself right away and fix it. A habit, on the other hand, is a mistake that happens again and again. It happens when you are not especially tired. It happens in different situations. It happens when you are trying your best to speak correctly. It is a pattern. If you find yourself making the same grammar error, using the same wrong word, or having the same pronunciation problems several times a week, or even several times a day, it is very likely a habit. So, how does the brain actually form these habits, both the good ones and the not so good ones? It is all about doing something many times and getting used to it. When you hear or see something in English and then you try to use it, your brain makes a connection. If you use it correctly and it works, meaning people understand you or you get good feedback, that connection gets stronger. Your brain thinks, okay, this is the right way to do it. But if you use it incorrectly and it still works in some way, maybe people understand you even with the mistake, or you do not get corrected, your brain can still form a connection. It thinks, okay, this is a way to do it. And if you repeat that incorrect way often enough, that connection becomes very strong. It becomes automatic. It is like walking on a path in the grass. If you walk on the same path every day, you wear down the grass and a clear trail forms. Your brain is the same. The more you use a particular pathway, the stronger it becomes. What are the most common signs that an error has become a habit rather than just an occasional mistake? One big sign is consistency. If you make the same mistake in many different sentences or in different conversations, it is a habit. For example, if you always forget the S at the end of verbs for he, she, and it, you will likely do it in sentences like you walked to the store, she liked pizza, and it rained a lot. It is not just one sentence. It is a pattern across many. Another sign is automaticity. This means you do it without thinking. You do not even stop to think if it is right or wrong. It just comes out. If you are asked to say 3 and your mouth automatically makes a tree sound, that is an automatic habit. You are not choosing to say tree. It is just what your mouth does. A third sign is resistance to correction. Sometimes, even when someone corrects you, you might make the same mistake again very soon after. This does not mean you are stubborn. It means the habit is very strong. Your brain has been made to respond in a certain way, and it takes real effort to change that programming. You might hear the correction, understand it, but then your mouth or your pen automatically goes back to the old habit. You might also notice that the mistake happens even when you are trying hard to be careful. When you are relaxed and just talking, you might make mistakes. But if you are taking a test or writing an important email and the same mistake keeps appearing, it is a strong sign of a deeply set habit. Your conscious effort to be perfect might still go back to the old, automatic pathway. The good news is that this understanding, that your errors are habits, is very powerful. It means they are not permanent flaws. They are learned behaviors, and like any learned behavior, they can be unlearned and replaced. You are not bad at English. You have simply developed some unhelpful English language habits. The first step, then, is to become a detective of your own language. You need to start actively looking for these patterns of error. It is like shining a light into the dark corners of your speaking and writing. You are not looking for perfection yet. You are just looking for what is there. You are trying to uncover your own blind spots. Once you understand that your English errors are often deeply set habits, you have already taken the most important step towards mastering them. You have changed your view from seeing mistakes as random failures to seeing them as predictable patterns. This realization is the key that opens the door to real improvement. The next challenge, and it is an exciting one, is to develop good ways to actively find these hidden patterns. In the next part, we will look at practical methods for becoming a language detective and learning to catch your habitual mistakes as they happen. 4. The power of practice. Think about something you do every day without thinking. Maybe it's tying your shoes, brushing your teeth, or how you hold your fork. You do these things so much that you don't need to think about them. They are habits. Just like tying your shoes, how we use English can also become a set of habits. Some habits are good. They help us speak and write clearly. But sometimes we learn habits that are not so good. These are the English habits that cause mistakes. They are the small things we say or write that can trip us up. The big secret to changing these habits is practice. This is what truly helps us get better. But not just any practice. Doing the same thing over and over is not enough, especially if you are doing the mistake over and over. Imagine learning a new dance move. If you keep doing it the wrong way, you only get better at doing it wrong. The real change happens when we practice in a smart way. We need to be aware of what we are doing. This is where the real strength is, in the power of practice. When we talk about fixing our English habits, we are talking about changing things we do without thinking. Our brains are very good at making shortcuts. When we do something many times, our brain thinks, this is important. Let's make this automatic, so we don't have to think hard. This is how habits are made, for good or bad. The problem is that if we have practiced saying or spelling something the wrong way, our brain has made a shortcut for the wrong path. It feels normal, even though it leads to a mistake. So, how does practicing the right way, over and over, fix a wrong English habit that is stuck in our minds? It's like building a new road. Think of your old, wrong habit as a bumpy, winding dirt path you've used for years. Every time you use it, it gets more worn. Now, you want to build a smooth, straight highway. You can't just make the dirt path disappear. You have to work to build the new road. This means clearing the land, making a strong base, and laying down the road surface. Every time you choose to practice the correct English, you are adding a piece to this new highway. In our brains, this process means making new connections. When you learn something new and do it again, your brain cells start talking to each other in new ways. This creates new paths. If you keep using the old, wrong path, it gets stronger and stronger. But when you decide to use the correct path again and again, you make that path stronger. Over time, the new, correct path becomes easier to use, works better, and soon, it's the one you use without thinking. The old dirt path might still be there, but the highway is now the easy, fast, and comfortable way to go. This is why just repeating mistakes doesn't help. It's like always driving on the bumpy dirt path, making it harder to ever build the highway. The important words here are aware and focused. This means you are not just speaking or writing English and hoping for the best. You are paying attention to the exact thing you want to improve. If you know you often say "I'm agree" instead of "I agree," then you need to practice saying and writing "I agree" on purpose. You might even say it out loud to yourself 10 times a day, focusing on how the correct phrase sounds and feels. Or, if you find it hard to use the past tense of a verb, you will make sure to practice forming that past tense correctly in sentences. This focused attention is what makes practice powerful. It's the difference between just walking around and training for a race. Both involve moving, but one has a clear goal and a plan. This brings us to something very important. Doing it regularly is much more important than doing it a lot all at once. Trying to do many hours of English practice in one day is like trying to drink a whole gallon of water at once. It's too much and doesn't work well. Your body and your brain can't handle it. Instead, think about short practice times every day. Even just 5 or 10 minutes each day to practice a specific habit can make a big difference. This regular effort keeps the new ways of using English fresh in your mind and lets your brain build those new paths slowly and steadily. It's like giving a plant a little water every day. It grows well. If you only water it once a month, it will struggle. Practicing every day helps build speed. When you practice a correct habit often, it starts to feel more natural. You begin to notice when you go back to the old habit because the new one feels right. This creates a good circle. The more you practice correctly, the more you notice your mistakes and the more you can fix them right away. This awareness is a big part of overcoming wrong English habits. It's also good to know the difference between active and passive practice. Passive practice is like listening to English music or watching an English movie. It's good for hearing the flow and sounds of the language and you might learn some new words, but it's not enough to change how you speak or write. Active practice is when you do the work yourself. This means speaking out loud, writing sentences, trying to think in English, and using the rules you have learned on purpose. For example, if you were learning to use the past tense correctly, passive practice would be listening to someone tell a story in the past tense. Active practice would be you writing a short story about what you did yesterday, making sure every verb is in the past tense. You are using the language yourself, not just hearing it. This active use forces your brain to understand and build those new, correct habits. Think about learning to ride a bike. At first, it's shaky and you fall a lot. You are not just watching someone else ride. You are actively trying to balance, pedal, and steer. Every time you get back on and try again, you are practicing. You are learning to make small changes, to move your body, to steer just right. This constant, active effort is what eventually lets you ride smoothly, without even thinking about it. Your brain has learned the habit of balancing and steering. This process of active practice also creates a natural way to check yourself. When you try to speak or write using a new habit, you will often notice right away if it doesn't sound or look right. This knowing yourself is very helpful. It's your brain telling you, hey, that wasn't quite right. Let's try again. If you are practicing saying I agree and it comes out sounding like I am agree, you will likely hear it yourself. This gives you a chance to fix it right away. No, it's just, I agree. This immediate checking and fixing is a powerful way to shape your English habits. Let me tell you about my own experience. For many years, I had trouble with prepositions. Words like in, on, at, for, and often felt like guessing. I would just pick one that felt right, and often it was wrong. For example, I'd say I am good in playing chess instead of I'm good at playing chess. It became a mistake I did without thinking, a habit that was very hard to break. I didn't understand why it was wrong, and just being told it didn't help me remember. I knew I needed to practice, but not by saying the wrong thing over and over. I started carrying a small notebook. Every time I heard or read a correct preposition in a sentence, I would write it down. For example, I'd see he is interested in history or she is responsible for the project. Then, I would make sure to create my own sentences using those prepositions correctly. I'd write things like, I am interested in learning new things, or he is responsible for taking care of his dog. At first, it felt slow when I had to think hard, but I did this every single day. I would look at my notebook before I spoke or wrote. I started to see patterns. I began to connect certain verbs or words with specific prepositions. This wasn't just memorizing. I was actively using them. I was building those new paths in my brain, creating the highway for using prepositions correctly. It took time, and I still had moments of doubt, but slowly, the old, wrong habit of guessing started to go away. The correct prepositions began to feel normal, like the right way to say things. It wasn't about being perfect right away. It was about the regular, aware effort of practicing, of choosing the new, correct path again and again until it became the one I used without thinking. This commitment to practice, to actively rebuilding our language paths, is what makes us change. It's the most direct way to turn those automatic mistakes into smooth, correct speaking and writing. The power of practice is not in just doing it many times, but in why you are doing it. When practice is focused, regular, and done with awareness, it becomes the strongest tool we have to fix our English habits and truly become good at the language. While the power of regular, focused practice is clear in changing our English habits, how well it works depends on knowing what to practice. In the next part, we will look at the very first step, finding out exactly which English habits are stopping you from getting better. Conclusion: you are at the end to fix your habits in English. This is a big step, and it shows you really want to get better at English. We have talked about how common English mistakes can become like habits that are hard to break. But we also learned that these habits can be changed. You learned that getting better at English is not about luck or having a special gift. It is about understanding how you learn to speak and write, finding the parts that are not quite right, and then working hard to make them better. Think back to when you started. Maybe you felt a little unsure, or even a bit sad when the same mistakes kept happening. This is normal. We looked at how these English habits happen, often without us knowing. They become so automatic that they feel like the only way to speak or write. But the good news is that what becomes a habit can also be unlearned and replaced with better habits. You did more than just read words. You actively worked on your English. You took time to look closely at your own English to find the exact mistakes that became your habits. You practiced a lot, working hard to change the old ways of speaking and writing. This takes real effort, and it is great that you kept going. The main idea of English habits is more than just a way to think about mistakes. It is a strong way to make changes. It helps you stop thinking I am not good at English and start thinking I have some habits that I can change. You learn to know when a mistake is just a small slip and when it is a sign of a habit that needs more work. And the most important thing you learned is that you have the power to keep getting better. This book gave you the tools, but you are the one who will make progress. Think of fixing your English habits not as a place to stop, but as a journey that keeps going. The skills you learned in this book, being able to notice your own language, practicing with a goal, and working hard on it, these are your tools for the future. Keep being your own teacher. Listen to yourself when you speak and read what you write. Do not be afraid to ask others for help. It is a gift that shows you things you might not see. Remember that practicing often and with focus is important. Every day is a new chance to build stronger and more correct English habits. The hard work you do now will, over time, lead to new ways of speaking and writing that feel easy and natural. What feels like work today will become normal tomorrow. Imagine how confident you will feel when your English becomes smoother, clearer, and works better. Think about the new chances that will come your way in your life and in your job. You can make your English exactly how you need it to be. By understanding and working on your English habits, you are not just fixing mistakes. You are becoming a more sure and skilled speaker. Thank you for letting me be on this journey with you. Now, go and keep building the English habits that will help you for your whole life. Your path to speaking English well is still going, and it is brighter than ever.